That's a great question. I think ultimately the conservative understands something that the populist does not. I think populism is more driven by emotion, by a desire to change certain things immediately without regard to the means and sustainability of that change. Whereas a conservative is grounded in historical truths, in history, and in what has been successful civically for our nation's history and for the history of past republics. And they understand that change must come gradually and thoughtfully and strategically in order for it to be long lasting. Now, that is not an excuse for inaction, and that's not an excuse to accept, baby steps in certain directions when we could be pushing much further in terms of what we want in terms of policy outcomes. The conservative understands that they may not necessarily understand exactly why Chesterton's fence is there, but they know that before they tear down that fence, they need to really, really have deep understanding of why it was built, and they need to be able to articulate an argument of why that institution or why that fence needs to be brought down. Whereas I think the populist is just like, this institution, this person, this layer of the Constitution or the government is in the way of what we want to do, and we need to tear it down. Someone from England, proposed to another person. And I hate that I don't remember the names, but he said, would you cut down the law to get at the devil? And, the other person responds, I would cut down every law in England to get at the devil. And so the other person responds, and when you cut down every law in England, what do you think is going to protect you from the devil? Right? And so the understanding here is that the rule of law, the Constitution, the political norms, both cultural and legal, that we follow in America are there to protect the people from radical revolutionaries that haven't thought everything through, or that even may have dictatorial aims, from implementing their agenda right away in such a way that it can never be taken back. Right? Our founders understood the dangers of mob rule and populism. They wrote and spoke about it at length, which is why our government is structured the way that it is. It's very difficult to, create transformational change in one election cycle. They understood that there needs to be a balance of power. We can't make one branch too powerful in comparison to the other, and there needs to be representation by the people, which was meant to be the House of Representatives, by the states, which was meant to be the Senate, and it no longer is, which is a big problem. One of the things that we need to do is get rid of the 17th Amendment and put the Senate back in the hands of the states. And then, of course, the president, right, which, yes, is elected by the Electoral College. And, they have a lot of power vested in one person, but it's balanced out by Congress, which controls the purse, and it's balanced out by the judiciary, which, through its interpretation of the Constitution and public opinion, can also stop the executive or the legislature from overstepping.